All right, everyone, welcome back to our podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about drones and how to use them, how we've been using them in construction and real estate. So with that, we're going to jump into it. Bentley, why don't you tell us, kind of how did you get into drones in the first place?
Okay, first, we saw drones at CES. Dev and I used to go to electronic convention in Vegas, and we saw them, and we're like, wow, these are awesome, So we bought a DJI Phantom, and we were using it to take real estate photos. I got my drone pilot's license. Fast forward 2 years after it sat in our closet for a solid.
Naturally, that's a drone initiation period.
Yeah, you got to get your drone, do a couple action shots, and then go straight to the closet. We started doing some neat things where we programmed it, do a time lapse. So we're like, okay, we're building this house. It'd be a great video if we could, the drone could record and do a circular motion. I knew I couldn't just guess, those points and make it fly in the exact same spot over the course of, 6 to 8 month build. We used special software to put points down, and we're able to do a time lapse. And a funny story. One day I had to leave, so I was like, "Hey, Devin, this is practically automated. We just
press a button.
Just press a button, and we hit.
That easy.
Will you record for me?" And Devin went to. And Devin, how's your experience?
The compass wasn't calibrated, I think, and so when it took off, instead of going in the right direction, it flew backwards and right into a building and crashed, busted up the wings and everything.
So much for automation.
So, yeah, I think it's a design issue, but the battery,
or user error, one of the two.
His fat finger hit the play button 2 times.
Yeah, but the controller disconnected from it, so I couldn't turn it off. But I had to go turn off the battery manually, and unfortunately, the button to turn off the battery in the drone is right where the wings are. And so I had to put my hand in there because I was panicking, trying to get it to shut off. Probably should have used a tool, but ended up cutting my hand up. Blood went everywhere. It was fun.
Came back from my appointment. I'm like, what happened?
Who died?
Blood splattered everywhere.
Anyways, he actually, no lie, had like PTSD over this drone for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not going to do it. And fast forward, we stuck it back in the closet for another, 6 months. And then Devin had an idea of how we could use it.
Yeah, well, that's what's cool. I feel like so many people, we buy drones, we use them for 4 days and then never touch them again. So it's cool that I feel like you guys have you've gone through that process, but you've gotten to the point where it's kind of become a part of the routine and it's actually doing cool stuff. And I know, Devin, we saw you do stuff this whole week with it. You want to kind of explain what you're doing right now to utilize them and how it's impacting your business today?
Not clip your nails or...
Yeah, exactly. Trim my fingers.
Oh, yeah.
Drones, right now, we're using them to survey map different lots and lot layouts. So when you have a lot that's registered, every piece of land is registered with the state. The surveyors come out and take different points, and those points are GPS locations. We can then use those points to plug those into the drone and have them fly to specific points. What that allows us to do is it allows us flexibility in being able to divide property up into lots with a good form of accuracy without requiring huge tapes or inaccurate wheels that run along the ground. You can really draw out different lot layouts or houses sitting on lots or buildings, and you can have the drone fly to those locations and make it so you can locate the points so you can see in real space what you're working with.
That's pretty cool.
So you this week you were figuring out how to get those GPS locations, or what? Tell us.
Yeah.
So we've got a client that we're working with who has a piece of property that he's trying to determine usable space, as well as when you have a piece of property large enough that you can do something with it, usually the government likes to get their fingers in it. So they're not going to let you just
Usually, always, you mean?
Yeah. So they never let you just do whatever you want. So they always going to want a piece of something. Well, in this case, for natural resources, and these are very important reasons, but for water retention basin is a requirement for one of his pieces of his property. And unfortunately, it's really hard to determine via drawings whether or not the space you have that's remaining is really usable. So
Just to give some context, this client he's working with and this property is on a mountain.
yeah,
So this ain't no flat piece of property.
yeah, this isn't like Texas where you got a nice flat area to work with, right? But
And the city took like a little sliver like all the way across for their like water basin thing. And anyways, makes it complicated.
yeah. So the shape of the basin is not simplistic, like you were saying. It's got some very thin pieces to it. So it makes it really hard for a human to take a measuring tape and really try and figure out the contours, the curves, the rounded areas with some form of ease. The hard part is traditionally you would pay a surveyor to go out and do this for you, and it costs thousands of dollars. Well, that's great if everything's finalized and ready to go, and nothing's going to change. But government, they work really fast. And they get things approved like that.
Oh, yeah.
So everything's set in stone. You know exactly what they want all the time, right?
But everybody
I wish.
watching is like, wow, what cities
Like,
do you work
ooh,
with? I want to.
Let's move there. Yeah.
So instead
We're the government. We're here to help.
So instead of going out throughout this process of doing negotiating and understanding the shape and getting everything finalized, instead of having your surveyor go out 3, 4, 5 times and you're spending $2-3 every time you need to have the new drawing staked, right? You can save quite a bit of time and quite a bit of money by using a drone. You take the GPS locations of the lot. Then you can use CAD, which you can draw to scale what they're looking for, and pull the individual points off of that, and fly the drone right to those points to help you stake it, and not have to try and use a measuring tape and try and guess as you're going through your iterations.
Yeah. And so you're saying you just follow the drone around and like when it hovers right there, you go and stake underneath it and
Exactly.
press
So
play again or whatever and
you put the
rinse,
point,
repeat.
Yeah, you put the points in the drone. It will fly right to it automatically. You don't even have to control it.
Mm-hmm.
You just bring, the only control you really have to do is you just bring it down out of the sky because you can't fly it too low, otherwise you're going to hit foliage. But it flies up in the air, you bring it down, you put a stake, it goes back up automatically, flies to the next point, you bring it down, put a stake, and you just follow it along until it's done. And really a job that would take a few weeks and a few people, now is a few hours and you're done.
Yeah. And it's pretty accurate, right? Because you program it based off of one coordinate, and then as long as your file has that coordinate as well, and in real life you have that coordinate, you can be pretty sure it's good to go.
As long as they all match, yeah. The drone knows exactly its distance from where it takes off. It knows exactly how high up it is, and it uses multiple satellites that connect to it to give it its GPS location.
So you're telling me that we're throwing away our 300-yard tape right after this podcast?
Yes. I mean, yep, for the most part.
We'll use the tape to go between the lines.
Derek, you've been doing something neat with it, drones and the house that you're building.
Oh yeah. That's pretty cool. So actually kind of using the same software you were talking about. So anyways, I have a 3D version of my house, and I wanted to see what it would look like essentially my master bedroom. Like there's a nice window view, but there's a tree, and there's my neighbors' houses, cause it's in the city. And so what we did is we, ran it through this program, Drone Deploy, which like scans like a grid, and then you take all the pictures and it makes like a super accurate 3D map. So we overlaid essentially Google Earth so you could see the mountains with the coordinates, and then put the realistic drone map on top of that, and then put my 3D house plan on top of that. And now I've been designing all my windows based off of what I can see visually outside with a couple millimeter accuracy. And so anyway, it's been changing some windows, increasing some privacy in places, and I don't know. It's pretty dang cool. I think.
It's really cool. Amazing what drones. I mean, what's interesting is there's probably a lot of people, that are watching this. They might have a drone, and they were like me at first, where okay, I got this. You can follow me on my 4-wheeler, take some real estate photos, and that's it. Devin, you discovered that you can figure out how much it's going to cost to dig a certain, to remove dirt, right? If you're on a hill and you got to figure, okay, well, there's a lot of dirt here I got to remove. You can figure out the cost before you even get a track code there.
Yeah. So drones with the software now, because you can pull together a point cloud that is like a 3D mesh. It can calculate how you can put a plane on the map, on this point cloud, and it will tell you how much dirt is above that plane and how much dirt or even void is below that plane, so you can determine how much you need to cut away and how much dirt you need to fill in order to get a perfectly level surface.
So, I mean, that's huge if you're doing your due diligence between a couple lots and figure out which one you should buy for your dream house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because costs, depending on the terrain, can vary greatly. Some people who are maybe looking at different pieces of real estate and they may be remote can get a very good visual representation and explore a piece of property without ever having to set a foot on it.
Yeah. Well, that's, one of the challenges, anyone that's built anything before, it's always like, the pricing is so hard. And so I think we're focusing a lot on estimating and trying to like get really good costs prior to starting anything. And, this stuff, like it reduces that margin of error by a huge amount, which is just so important for most people, I think.
Well, I think it's a huge factor in housing costs and housing pricing. People, nowadays one of the biggest issues with homes and real estate is that everything costs so much, right? And the construction industry is notorious for waste.
Yeah.
Just between a couple houses you build, you generate a whole house worth of waste.
Oh yeah, we always joke about that. Some of the stuff we throw away. We just build a house.
And dirt is no exception. You think, as you get going, you might want to put your, sometimes the developer who developed the lot originally has been gone for a long time, so you have no idea how deep that sewer is, and sometimes you need to go a lot deeper than you expected. Well, that's a lot more haul off than you expected, and that adds to costs. And the more you have to make adjustments and changes because of things you didn't pre-plan for, can really hurt the bottom line, and it pushes the price of housing up. Makes
or breaks it. But that's what's cool too, I guess, if you're trying to find the perfect lot, you can really maximize and buy things that people wouldn't, that ends up being way cheaper, or buy things that both. You can just essentially build the perfect house for the perfect lot and save a lot of money in between, which I think is important for most people.
I mean, here's a scenario. You can, basically you find one lot that has too much dirt, and you're like, well, there's a lot across town that as a sinkhole practically of a lot, and you could be like, okay, is there enough dirt on this other lot I own to transfer and add value to the sinkhole lot? And if there is enough dirt, you could maybe buy that sinkhole lot and turn it for a profit, make something undesirable and make it desirable.
And you save money on both ends. You're not having to pay somebody to take all of your spare dirt, your haul off.
Yeah. And I'm assuming the current practice is like someone goes, oh yeah, you can transport some of that over here. Like that's as precise as it gets, where now it's like, oh yeah, you're going to have, I have no idea the numbers, but 100 extra cubic meters of dirt here that you need 90 there. Like it's very precise is what this can do, which is just a game changer.
Oh yeah. So if somebody calls you and says, hey, I have some dirt, is it okay if I put on your lot? You could literally tell them exactly how much dirt.
Yeah. And you can go scan their pile first to know how much it's going to be,
Exactly.
Your analysis and your preparation is only as good as the data that you're using for it. And so this is one of the best ways we have to collect data on land. And so anyways, it becomes very powerful, the whole build, because prior to that, it was such arbitrary numbers that our analysis was total crap, in my opinion. So
here we are, podcast number 1, talking about drones, but then eventually we're going to talk about
build process, right? 0 to 1 it, essentially try to, if someone were to figure out how to build a house today with current technology. What would they do, right? And so, I mean, anyways, we're going to talk about everything from taking a 3D model, but we want to also make it so we can change, live change, make modifications like, colors and trims and doorknobs and all that stuff. And, but in order to do that, you need to kind of have some database that stores some stuff, to have some live updates that trickles down through everything, that does our estimating, that does the visuals as well. Anyways, it's going to be pretty complex, and we've been building that out. So got about an infinite amount of data, things to talk about. Data, you can tell I've been sitting on a computer all day.
Yeah, basically, we're going to reinvent the building process with technology, with the latest technology. And you guys get to follow along and see where that takes us.
Yeah. And we're going to, part of the process is, we want to share it with everyone. And so anyways, this is number one. Like you said, we're only get better. So hopefully you stick around, and there's going to be some awesome ones coming out. And so I think next week we're going to talk about 3D modeling. So hopefully you guys stick around, and until next time.